Welcome back to Group Ironman Daily. Early in the morning on the weekend, I have this episode here. I'm really hopeful that the sound is going to be properly balanced. If you can't hear me right now, turn up your sound to maximum because I don't think it's going to get much louder than this. The farming contracts are a great way to get seeds, especially if you're going for 99 herb lore on an Ironman. So I'm just going to do this herb run while I talk about something else because I had something to talk about today, and that is the man, the myth, the legend, Jesus of Nazareth. Let's just clean these herbs as I walk over here. What's the big deal about Jesus? I saw an Instagram post recently, and it was about the historicity of Jesus. It was asking, did Jesus really exist? In the comments, there were a lot of people saying that Jesus was a prophet of Allah. And even if Jesus was convinced in himself, like, he's a bit off of his rocker if he really thinks he's the son of God, right? We know you've figured something out, but let me just pause the tape so I don't enter my pin on screen. Okay, I'm back. So, I was talking about Jesus, right? Oh yeah, so what's the big idea? The big idea is that there's some sort of mystical or supernatural power that interacts with the world. And you can basically pick like whether or not you're going to live your life based on the idea that such a thing exists or that it doesn't. This is sort of like Kierkegaard all over again. But you know, if you've got doubts, if you want to reason it into existing, then that's too slow. Like, you're not going to be able to discover God in any way other than through faith directly. Basic idea that I like to use is that God is like a person. This is like a theistic idea rather than a deistic idea, but God is a person. Okay, so what does it mean for someone to be a person? To me, that means they need some kind of subjective experience, and they also need a body, right? I have my body, and I have my subjective experience, and I get personified by everybody I know and everybody I'm with because that's part of the conventions of our society. We have individual responsibility, and so in order for me to take responsibility for things, the easiest way linguistically to hold me accountable is by personifying me. So I become a person, and that being a person could be something distinct from having subjective experience and having a body, but to me that's how it makes sense. Like, my capacity for subjective experience, and especially subjective experience that can go sour, is what makes me a person. And so that's sort of my basis in searching for God. Like, I'm trying to find some subjective experience that is embodied in existence as a whole. The god of fire, for example. The god of fire would be embodied in fire. That makes sense, right? So the monotheistic God is embodied in all of existence. Is a god just a person that isn't real? What is a god? But yeah, so anyways, this all started on Instagram. I saw a post. Islam is a bit tougher than Christianity. Like, here, I think I had a note on this. Maybe I should read the Quran to dismantle that a bit before reconciling my faith with my unbelief. If Muslims can't hang, then they're not cool. Talk reasonably, so, you know, that's the angle that I'm coming from, you know, but if there's one tradition that I think would be good, it's a tradition of progressing society towards an egalitarian future in a way that's safe. Our mission is to discover the ultimate mission, like the best way that we can spend our lives. Like, what are we working towards? Is it serving God? No, because we don't know if God's real, so it has to be something else. Serving God is one way of just putting this into language, right? If you come up with some idea of God that fulfills the idea in a way that makes sense to you, then you might be able to use that. But philosophically, that creates a problem called false equivocation. People even go so far as to say God is love. How can love be God and also just an emotion? If you do a false equivocation, you would say, like, I have a lot of emotions, including love, therefore God is real. The false equivocation is that in the first premise, you start by saying love is an emotion, and in the second premise, you change that into love is God. And so you can't have it both ways. Recently, I've come to think that love is more than just an emotion. I think it's also a vibration. I believe in vibes. I believe that when you exist in space, you've got some sort of particulate embodiment, but you also have the wave form, and this isn't just in quantum physics. We know there's waves all over, in sound. Like, sound is a great example. When you listen to music, you're really catching the vibe. And so those sorts of vibes exist even outside of sound. Like, even in, maybe I'm wrong, but I do think that love is a vibe. And generally vibes can break down into two forms, the positive form and the negative form. And the positive form is more life-affirming. It helps things grow, I guess. The negative form is more destructive. But yeah, there's some nuance there, because you can destroy things for the purpose of creation and you can create things for the purpose of destruction. So you'd have to figure that out for yourself. But I think psychologically there exists these two forms. And then in the physical space as well, I think they can be sent through vibration and then received and transmitted by humans. And I don't mean to say that that's telepathy, but it can be used for telepathy. Yeah, so I've studied the Bible a little bit, not as much as I'd like to, but I definitely need to study other religions as well in order to get a more holistic perspective on this. I gotta give it a chance, you know. Part of my problem with Christianity is that people say, like, in order to give it a fair chance, you have to accept Jesus into your heart. It's like, oh yeah, you're the guy who died, right? Why should I worship him as a Lord when he's off doing his own thing? Yeah, I get the idea that, like, normally the punishment is death, and so we get spared in some way. But why should I be punished with death? Like, anybody can come down or come up and arrive here. Just being here does not imply any sort of... being here doesn't imply that I've done anything. Me being here, even as an adult, like having lived an entire childhood and making it to adulthood, that doesn't mean I've done anything in life, because I could be a completely different person now from who I was that produced who I am now. And I hope that makes sense, but like every moment of your existence is as a new person if you imagine it to be that way, because personhood is imaginary. Personhood is part of our societal structure that goes over top of the natural world. It's subjective. Personhood is subjective, I guess. Or what am I saying here? What I'm saying is that you are more like an experience than a person. And every moment of your experience can be radically different from the last. And we do have some conventions and we have some ideas about how life continues in some predictable path. Like, what's that word that Newton used? Inertia. When you're riding a motorcycle and you want to take a turn but you're going too fast, so you go in a straight line. Personhood is like that too. Like, we persist into ourselves because our trajectory is already going that way. I'm hopeful that in future episodes I can develop this further, and much love to all the Muslims out there and all the Christians. At the time of this recording, it's pretty close to Christmas Day, which I do celebrate as a secular holiday, so Merry Christmas to everybody, all the atheists out there.